Please be seated. I'd like to invite any of our young people who are here today to come join me. What's up? Come on in. Hi, guys. How are you? All right. Here we go. Fantastic. All right, good morning. Good morning. So, how was Christmas? Was it good? Good, yeah, good for you guys? Okay, I have a question for you. So, in your house, when you open presents, is it one present at a time? Yeah, or do you kind of like just dive in and is paper flying everywhere? Rusty, paper flying everywhere? No. Okay, yeah. Is there a big mess afterwards? Yeah, big mess at your house? Yeah. Oh, not really. Do you have somebody who like polices and picks all the paper up immediately afterwards? No. Okay. Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, when our boys were little, we got to the point that we actually just had gigantic bags, and they would crawl in them and do whatever they needed to do because it was the only way we could control the chaos. So, yeah. So who does the cleaning up afterwards? Do you help pick up all the paper? Yeah? Well, that's a committed person right there. Yeah, good for you. So, yeah. Well, in our lesson today, it's kind of a reminder that you have that wonderful moment and all those gifts get open, but then somebody's got to clean up the mess. And our lesson today is there's all kinds of messy things that happened after Jesus was born and after the wise men had come. And so that's what we're going to learn about today. But the good news is that God is with us in the fun stuff when we get to open the presents, and God is with us when we got to clean up the mess also. So it is so good seeing all of you this morning. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, okay? Thanks for coming up.
The escape to Egypt and the return to Nazareth. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, "take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I call my son." When Herod realized he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what he said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. "A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning. Rachel wept for her children and refused to be comforted because they are no more." After Herod had died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead." So he got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judah in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, "He will be called a Nazarene."
This morning I'm experiencing one of the few professional risks of being a pastor. I have the Christmas Eve cold. It's kind of hard no matter how much hand sanitizer you use when you're shaking hands and hugging 630 30-some people. That's always exciting. So be grateful you're far away from me right now. One of my favorite Christmas songs in recent years is one that has been sung many times by our choir here. It's called "Mary, Did You Know?" It is a haunting melody with lyrics that ask questions of what Mary really knew, really understood about the infant that she held in her arms. One of the verses says, "Mary, did you know that your baby boy would give sight to a blind man? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would calm a storm with his hand? Did you know that your baby boy has walked where angels trod? When you kiss your little baby, you kiss the face of God." Mary, did you know? In our lesson this morning, we move very quickly to what Mary found out. We move from the pastoral, peaceful images of the nativity, the stories of the angels and the shepherds, and everything changes when the Magi start showing up, coming to find the promised Messiah. These verses are the stark reminder of what God encounters when God leaves the vastness of eternity and decides to become a human being. And what God finds is not pretty. The Magi, wise men from the east, show up with their gifts, and in the process, they bring with them a whole mess of trouble. By the way, I love that opening hymn. I love the first Noel. But I hate to be Debbie Downer. There's nowhere in the Bible that tells us that there were 3 kings. They brought 3 gifts, but let me tell you what it was probably more like. There was probably a whole bunch of them, and they showed up with a big entourage, and they had shown up in Herod's court, and they were probably armed to the teeth. And they told him they were looking for the promised new king. And then, of course, they lied about what they had found, and they disappeared. Mary, did you know? How could you know? How could you know that because of this, there would be a slaughter of innocent children by a megalomaniac ruler, desperate to keep in power and destroy any possible threat to himself by murdering your son? Mary, how could you know that you would become a fugitive, a refugee, fleeing for your life as refugees have done since the dawn of time and continue to do as I speak these words? This happens all over the world. Rick Nelson is headed back down to Honduras, and my last conversation with me, he informed me of a huge concern that we're going to have going forward with our work in Honduras. You see, all those people who left Honduras, many of them mothers trying to protect their children from murderers and warlords, were turned back at Mexico and at the U.S. border, and they're now back in Honduras, but they're living in refugee camps in their own country because they still cannot go home. Mary, how could you know? But God knew. It was for just such evil, sin, hopelessness, and suffering that the Word became flesh. Just as God could no longer ignore the cries of the Hebrews who were in slavery in Egypt, and so he sent Moses to them as a deliverer, God could no longer ignore the cry of humanity in bondage to sin, and only at this time in history, he decided to send himself. For only the Creator can mend what is broken in the creation. God knew. As we come to the end of a year and anticipate the coming of a new one, I think all of us can look into our own lives, look into the past, and we can ask ourselves, well, what did I know? Did you have a clue about the struggles and the losses that came your way? Did you know the impact that you could have had or did have by the acts of kindness or words of encouragement that you offer to others? Yesterday, Kim and I were aided not once but twice by complete strangers, witnessing us struggling to move a heavy piece of furniture first onto the back of my truck and then off. One who was actually driving by stopped his car, got out, and we must have looked so pathetic that he said, "Can I help you?" We spent the rest of the day being so incredibly grateful. We had no idea. Did you know? Did you know the good that you did? I think the truth is most of us would rather not know of the times of struggle and heartache that are ahead of us, but to live each moment fully as we can. But we would want to know the wonders that are coming so that we can fully appreciate them. As we look ahead, the one thing that we do need to know is that God was there with Mary and Joseph. He was guiding them through that time of terror and fear and travel. He walked them through that time of trial. And he also took them then to their new home in Nazareth. And so as God was with them, God is with you. God is with us. And as we walk ahead in that confidence and with that peace. God is there, and you need to know that. Amen.